Hello everyone, today we've got a very special review of Variable Barricade, the first big Otome of 2022. Now of course, I'm not, embarrassing myself by reviewing this game. I got the lovely Lilia Helal. She's a big expert, she's a fantastic writer, and so this is her review. Please check her Twitter profile below in the link and follow her. And yeah, she's a really good writer, so these are her words, not mine. Let's see what she thinks of this big Otome. Variable Barricade is hitting the Nintendo Switch exclusively, both physically and digitally today. This title is the first Otome release of 2022 from one of the most prolific localizers within the West of the genre Axis games. It has been one of the most hotly anticipated releases from the publisher's lineup this year, and there are many reasons as to why that is the case. Firstly, Variable Barricade marks the first time its artist, Kageru Usuba, has graced Western audiences via consoles, whose delightful illustrations and character designs come from some of the best looking Otomes out there, such as Rain de Fleur. Secondly, it stars a voiced heroine portrayed by Saki Fujita, best known for voicing the Vocaloid Hatsune Miku, who projects so much charisma and additional appeal in Hibari to make her far more than just a one-note tsundere. Additionally, the game features unique mechanics unlike anything we've previously seen localized in the genre that adds a layer of interactivity with the likes of mobile messaging. And that's barely scratching the surface of the game, so let's get into it to answer the all-important question, did we fall in love with it? Let's start with the story. Players take control of the default named Hibari Tojo, whose 17th birthday has just recently come and gone. Her grandfather informs her that she is to be married off ASAP, and has already set up a housing situation to chuck and lock her into, living alongside 4 suitors he handpicked for her. She's not particularly happy about it, but with the clock ticking, she has to pick a suitor, and fast. Unless she wants these meager life decisions, she barely has any choice in to escape her grasp for good. The story of Variable Barricade is flimsy at best, but does contain a surprising amount of revelations to be enjoyed as they are subtly hinted at across its common route, and play out as notable highlights of the experience for how well all the foreshadowing and callbacks are across the game. Rather importantly to note, however, before we go any further, is that despite its colourful palette and pretty visuals, Variable Barricade takes a few unexpectedly dark turns. This may be expected due to who its scenario writers are that some players may already be familiar with, such as Iwata Shinobu of Collar X Malice and Kajimi Nao and Nakayama Satomi, 2 writers responsible for certain routes in Cafe Enchante and Code Realize. Either way, do not let its exterior fool you, since suicide, drugging, kidnapping, manipulation, and obsession are all touched upon here. Be sure to take note of any possibly triggering elements that its age rating fails to otherwise indicate before diving headfirst into it. Like any Otome, let's discuss its main appeal with what its love interests have to offer. Variable Barricade's LIs are a mixed bag depending on what qualities you're looking for in your romantic partner, but that's probably a given since they are all meant to be trash fires turned endearing and sympathetic by the end of their routes. Nayuta's route proves to be the funniest, playing up a cliche bodyguard storyline with endearing knucklehead himbo of an LI whose major fault is being a walking debt collector. In the case of Tiger, the juvenile sharp-tongued gambler, his route is grounded in being the most heartfelt by exploring themes such as inadequacy and failing to live up to expectations. As for the other two, Shion and Ichiya, they are completely opposite in terms of quality and appeal. Shion is the kept man who barely lifts a finger for anyone or anything, and he has quite the toxic approach to love. His route is the only one that felt exhausting to have to sit through due to his questionable actions and dialogue, whilst Ichiya was a shockingly stellar route to leave as the very last to play through, since it is the most significant to the overarching story. Ichiya, a by-the-book flirt, proves to be the biggest surprise of the game for subverting everything I ever despised about the poster boy archetype. These allies are typically written to be unquestionably perfect to ensure players are easily and safely drawn to their appeal that is idolized, despite it almost always being delivered by a basic and harmless personality with a mundane backstory. Comparatively, Ichiya goes through the most character development of its LIs, and has emotional baggage that highlights his vulnerability and weakness as a character. His difficulties make him strikingly memorable and appealing, which is unfortunately let down by a distasteful finale involving a soap opera moment that is taken to the extreme. Ultimately, both Shion and Ichia's routes will not be for everyone, as these LIs in particular present rather problematic takes with their behavior during their romancing. This is further made disappointing as players get to the final stretch of the game with its true ending, which is unlocked once these 4 LIs' best ending have been cleared, and it's the most questionable of the lot. Guessing who the true routes character will not be the tough bit. It's the stomaching of its specific revelation that is not even condoned in the end, despite it being highly uncomfortable for its sister complex element that absolutely ruins an otherwise very lovable character. Thankfully, the majority of Variable Barricade's runtime is an absolute joy to take in. The dynamics between the LIs especially is as entertaining as the other titles in the genre, such as Code Realize and Cupid Parasite. The 4 suitors go from teasing one another across its common route to taking immediate action in either supporting or defending one another during their competitor's route. And the same can be said for its other supporting characters, who elevates its comedy at every turn. Let's talk about the characters. Hibari's best friend, Tsumugi, is her personal cheerleader when it comes to encouraging Hibari's unenthusiastic pursuit of love. She makes every school scene memorable due to her getting frequently giddy by imagining very meta events that are always on the nose and self-aware. Expect plenty of Otoko and Otome references when she's on screen as her unique tactic in supporting Hibari. Their relationship parallels the other friends in the group, Noah, another fellow student who Hibari herself approaches first. Their relationship is based in the two having completely different experiences in romance, with Noah being encouraged by Tsumugi to share her knowledge with Hibari to teach her the ways of men and feminine charm. They function as a juxtaposition of Tsugumi with Hibari, since Hibari is the one who actively pursues Noah's friendship to everyone's surprise. In fact, many of the supporting characters bounce off Hibari splendidly to allow players to see the many sides to her. The friendly stranger of Kazu offers a more neutral and mature stance on assessing her suitors, and whose gentle guidance sees Hibari much more open than usual. Then there is her stunted relationship with her grandfather, Takamune, who is one of the biggest metaphors for don't judge a book by its cover, that the game frequently explores as a recurring theme. Each character delivers on being just as entertaining as the other, but if there was one person who steals the entire show, it is Hibari herself. Hibari is remarkably layered and is an absolute treat to play as her. She is without a doubt one of the most impressive LIs to come out of a localized Otome. She has her own motivations, is not afraid to stand her ground and be vocal, and she has her own character development within each route that focuses on a caveat of her personality. She learns to broaden her understanding and worldview through bonding with the LIs, and it results in the gradual uncovering of her trauma until it is finally addressed and confronted in its true root. And while I still heavily dislike how they went about this route's plotline, it cannot be denied that this is where Hibari gets her true happy ending, which I will not spoil for you here. If you need just one reason to play Variable Barricade, do it for Hibari. We can finally understand why and how the LIs fall in love with the MC of an Otome. Variable Barricade has a built-in flowchart depicting with a chessboard motif as its intermission screen. It is a lot less complicated than it may initially appear, since the game still plays out completely linearly. From this screen, its chapters are distinguishable, with each tile alongside helpful markers to highlight which ones contain CGs. Players can unlock additional gameplay mechanics here too for a more interactive experience through its WIS app and Rabi function. The WIS is the mobile messaging app that gets filled with messages across your playtime, opening up a different way to converse with its characters, who end up exchanging their IDs with Hibari once you cross their path. There are choices to be made in a few of these, but they do not affect the route. The Rabi mechanic is a robotic rabbit that is gifted to Hibari during the common route to invigilate the LIs while she is out of the house. Very occasionally these pick up CGs of the LIs, but they mostly offer bite-sized bonus scenarios depicting their hilarious group dynamics, which is always a blessing to witness. It never gets old, but unfortunately there is simply not enough of these moments. Texts have a tendency of going on for quite long periods of time, and obtaining any new footage from Rabi does not even require players moving around their positioning in new locations, making for a false sense of interactivity. It's still an appreciated addition within an Otome and does indeed add content into a game that runs well over the 45-hour mark. The variable Barricade has 4 endings for each LI: the marry end, love end, bad end, and another end, with a total of 19 endings to obtain. The game is one of the easiest Otomes to traverse through, since each choice is split 50-50, and has a visual indication of the choice affecting either romance or reason. You merely have to backtrack and make successive selections on either reason or romance choices to be on track for its best or bad ending. Whichever outweighs the other is determined through a later chapter in each LI's board in the form of a barricade battle. The result is a showdown after an animated chibi illustration scene plays out, where the chosen LI attempts to break down Hibari's barricade. It is a very cute way of visually capturing the entire premise of the game as a whole, and reinforces the significant turning point of Hibari's development alongside heart-skipping moments of romantic build-up and tension. And upon a route's completion, a short but sweet epilogue is unlocked that covers the events of routes from Hibari and her chosen LI's viewpoint and perspective as they share and converse in their thoughts of what transpired. It is topped off with a CG depicting a moment during their marriage or after story. In terms of localization, presentation and other things, there are a few typos and errors in the script, although when those mistakes do appear, the sentence is still easily readable. Furthermore, Axis have corrected their mistakes from previous titles of theirs, such as Olympia Soiree, where a voiced line plays by an LI but comes without subtitles in its main menu. This time around, the voice lines are subtitled upon release. Variable Barricade's music happens to maybe be its weakest point, as it proves to not be anything worth writing home about, with the best tracks being its theme song of Hibari and the LIs, which probably surprises no one. Each track perfectly captures the soundscape of what these charming characters individually represent. The same cannot be said for its voice work, however, which is beyond exceptional in every single way. Hiro Shimono as the hyperactive Nayuta is a prime example of perfect casting, and Kenji Najima portraying the softly spoken and mystifying Shion may be the first time most Otome players in the West have heard his voice work, but you'll be wanting even more in no time at all. Then there's Kosuke Toriumi as Ichiya, who happens to be a replacement for the original voice actor. You wouldn't be able to guess that, since Kosuke hits it out of the park with injecting so much emotion and infliction in his deeply wounded character. But the cream of the crop has to be Nobuhiko Okamoto as Taiga, the voice actor of many memorable Otome characters such as Yang from Piafore and Peter from Cupid Parasite. His versatility in portraying such different characters is otherworldly. On a final note, while it is all subjective, a few choices in the humor department may not go over well depending on the player. Jokes such as showing how imaginative and over-worrying Hibari is, that is played up with chibi illustrations, can come across as rather distasteful when it's joking about a LI contemplating suicide. The majority of the humor across its common route that maximizes the bizarre clashing and complementing between LI's varying personality types makes for a wild time and plenty of bizarre scenarios to result from it, but it does get undermined sometimes when almost all of them address one LI as a dog. The habit even rubs off on Hibari herself. But what is most aggravating is the LI's reoccurring comment about Hibari's chest size, something I would expect in any other visual novel when the target demographic of the project is not aimed at females. These moments admittedly do the job of telling the player just how dislikable its LIs appear to be, which makes it understandable as to why Hibari is so against them. Thankfully, they are mostly all redeemed during their routes with the coverage of sympathetic backstories, good intentions, and satisfying conclusions to their growth. Overall, if you're looking for an Otome that changes up the genre's formula, then look no further. With its more interactive mechanics as additional gameplay options to explore for extra scenes and longer playtime, a heroine who is not only voiced, which is a rarity in itself, but has her own development take precedence, and whose personality shines the brightest of the cast, and contains more appealing LI characters for more mature players, since it suitors age range from 20 to 26, unlike the majority of teenagers in other Otomes. Variable Barricade does a lot right to stand out from the crowd. It has a lot of highs and some rather problematic lows that pulls its overall quality down. For the most part, its comedy, and especially slapstick during its more chaotic moments, were brilliant. Its barbecue scene will definitely go down in history as one of the most hilarious Otome moments ever, but certain tropes do come across as more distasteful, despite it gunning for getting laughs out of us. However, its romance more than makes up for these eye-rolling scenes, with each route following the same story beats, but with unique conflicts that progresses the relationship's development organically, alongside endearing and relatable themes. Just say I didn't warn you about its true ending, which is the only reason Variable Barricade does not rank any higher in my books. It's a 7 out of 10. Alright, many thanks to Lilia Helal for writing this review. As you'll agree, it is fantastic. Please go follow her on Twitter with the links below. If you want to purchase this yourself, then also consider using the links below to support us via that as well. Please check out some of our other stuff. We've got a lot of Otome stuff, especially on the Switch, so we'll see you over there.